My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. This is amplification, and it is 6:37 in the morning. That's an airport that's hovering over a senior citizen complex and doing so repeatedly as I documented. 6:17 a.m., 6:18 a.m., 6:32 a.m., 6:10 a.m. This is a low elevation and it's also amplified audible activity. It is a far a deviation from any placement that's going to occur, such as taking off over a senior citizen complex at Vine and G Street. The Ontario International Airport is at a distance away, not resulting in any planes hovering over as though they're at some elevation where they're heightening an elevation above the complex. The entity is targeting the plane activity in relevant position. They're doing this conduct, which is amplified inside of an apartment at a senior citizen complex where the fake sun is rising and setting, and the moon is over this same complex, and where the entity is stalking in helicopters flying over me repeatedly. That's the pattern of conduct. The Ontario International Airport, which the president of that airport, the demon that's on the Ontario City Hall warden, is fully aware of, especially as this city practices the same exact pattern of conduct. The Ontario International Airport is a violent sex offender engaging in monitoring someone while my panties are down. They're doing so with the entire property that is Woodside Senior, which is Avanath Communities, which is again the people of the state who are in relevant position in homes, in businesses, group stalking with the state. Okay, that's acting in sync with the demon in number 55, who's pacing in a living room where that demon knows where I'm located. The entity that is, again, inside of the apartment where you're looking at impossible light activity as well. That's an unreasonable nuisance on its face, but I'm giving the context. Those are demons that are flying commercial airline planes, going out of their way to maintain plane activity. This is demonic pacing, and it's also amplified audible activity that's heard inside of the apartment, and it's occurring with regard to federal stalking conduct, knowledge of what I'm doing online, and it's also doing so with regard to maintaining the elements of monitoring. It's also the train that's means of amplified audible activity, the Ontario train that's at the Ontario Museum, okay, that's amplification, which is demonic, and that plane activity is amplified audible activity, which is demonic, and this is criminal conduct at the Ontario International Airport, the means of the city, if you will. This is while the entity uses a public means of amplified audible activity, it's speaking to the state's engagement in the pattern of conduct. This is 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:40 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, just want to show again, this is amplification, demonic pacing, and what you'll see is the impossible light activity inside of the apartment. All right, there's no light source hovering above the sky space, and there's certainly no airport over here where you're taking off, rising in elevation over the apartment complex. The entity is maintaining impossible light activity right now inside of the apartment, and Ontario International Airport is literally monitoring me while I'm being molested with my person. So let me show you that. This is, again, cloudy skies. There's no sun. There's no light. And there's nothing that causes light activity to shoot through horizontally to create your upright shadow in the wall. And that's what this is. Ontario International Airport is the audible activity, and they're crossing path and they're monitoring. And that's how the state, again, is engaged in the pattern of conduct, and all the people of the state are group stalking together. Okay, in the same way that the entity is keeping a fake sun rising and setting at the same address, which is nowhere near Alvarado Gardens, nowhere near Fairfoot by Marriott in San Diego, nowhere near the Hesperia 9750 Key Point Avenue Holiday Inn. None of it's going to be seen through the hallway window. It's not going to be seen through the window of room 308 facing the Motel 6. This is maintaining that specific environment, which is demonic, which is a state's engagement in a pattern of conduct that is designed to keep you under surveillance online and in relevant position, and an entire airport is devoting their operations to group stalking one person. Okay, and that's speaking to the prosecution of the state of California. This is, again, a sex offense that's being documented because there's no light activity that's going to create that light activity upright on the wall. And that's directly tethered to the hovering conduct. There's no airport over here. The Ontario International Airport is at no location that's going to create any hovering of planes taking off from that airport. All right, to hover over, second of all, a senior citizen complex, third of all, at the hours that it does, and fourth of all, creating that level of a disturbance. The entity is clearly outside of the bounds of zoning, and also creating a public nuisance. But the people of the state don't complain. This is pointing out the common sense aspect of the group stalking by the state. All right, it's the same thing with the helicopter activity over senior citizen complexes. That's the pattern of conduct. It's currently 6:42 a.m. That's called amplified audible activity by the Ontario International Airport. This is called impossible light activity. Possible light activity. Cloudy sky. This is not concentrated light. And in the same way that sunlight doesn't create this sort of light activity, neither does any sort of a lamp, that street lamp that you see here, that's on the wall. Okay, create any sort of light activity that's going to shoot horizontally like that, creating your upright shadow. That's the Ontario International Airport engaging in group stalking inside of a private space. In doing so, moment by moment, minute by minute, 6:43 a.m. That's called amplification. It's heard inside of the apartment. Crossing path by the people of the state on Vine Street. Light activity. Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, Frontier Airlines, Amazon Airlines, UPS, and FedEx using their commercial airline planes to engage in group stalking. Every airline of the Ontario International Airport is fully engaged in that P.O.C. And by the way, the president of the airport authority, the people of the state are group stalking on Vine Street in traffic. You already know this because under the fake sun, they're engaging in crossing a path with the entity that's doing the same thing, planes and helicopters. Okay, and remember, the location of the Ontario International Airport is at no vantage point, no location. They are going far out of the away from the path where the Ontario International Airport, that would result in flying over. This is the G Street and Vine Avenue intersection for them to be hovering over. And the city of Ontario in particular, as I've documented very heavily in the city of Ontario, the planes are concentrating movement as I migrate. So do the planes. In other words, at the Ontario Ovid Family Community Library, the Ontario Town Square, that's where the fake sun is, and that's where the entity is hovering in the same identical manner over that location where I'm at. That's how the entity is stalking in commercial airline planes. That's how you have, by the way, hovering over a senior citizen complex. And doing so as I'm documenting at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. That is doing so with regard to my contact on the phone, and also what it is that I'm documenting. For example, uploading very damning evidence against this same exact city, which is the state of California. Ontario represents the state of California. That's how you have a fake sun over the complex, and then the documentation of the fake sun over the Alvarado Gardens. This is the exact same conduct that the LAPD was using helicopters to engage in. LAX was engaged in the pattern of conduct, but not hovering over Alvarado Gardens. They were flying in relevant position all around Alvarado Gardens. LORENZ, Ontario International Airport is flying directly over the senior citizen complex. And by the way, the airport being in the city is not the form or explanation for going out of their way, deviating from the takeoff location, which would be closer toward Hope Boulevard, hovering in that position. The entity is deviating to come in relevant position, fly over the senior citizen complex. Okay, that's flight activity, not audible activity. That's P.O.C. This entire complex is going to be prosecuted just like Alvarado Gardens at 6:45 a.m. The group stalking with a third party whose name I know, that's Tracy Banks. And impossible light activities inside of the apartment as well. And they're doing so while pacing in the sky space and pacing by the people. The sound of that beeping is audible activity by demons who are group stalking together. And this is a sex offense committed by the state. All right, and this is that impossible light activity that is, again, ongoing as you are opening the door, maintaining presence on the inside, having nothing to do with any light activity out here or any lamps on side. So I just want to be clear, this is Ontario International Airport again, pacing over. And this is, again, the more that you document, the more that the entity engages in it. And this is evidence against the entire entity. This is where the fake sun rises and sets. This is where the moon is over the same complex. This is where the entity is stalking by helicopters. And this is where the community, the people of the state, are group stalking with the airports, with the corrupt sheriff's departments, police departments, fire departments that are engaged in surveillance, demonic activity. P.O.C., again, you're capturing 6:46 a.m. This is the prosecution civilly and criminally of the state. The planes are a means of audible activity. The planes are a means of amplified audible activity, so that's demonic. And that is, again, P.O.C. on September 20th, 2024. The plane activity picks up, but the more I document, the frequency increases. The entity's doing the same thing with train activity. All right, and that's what I'm capturing on with regard to the timestamps. And the people of the state are maintaining light activity, crossing paths, driving into the parking lot, driving on Vine Avenue and G Street. 7-Eleven across the street is making money on surveillance cameras while they're group stalking. The people of the state are living in relevant positions, so this entire neighborhood is engaged in that. It's a zone of relevant positioning, and that targeting is identified through the maintenance of the fake sun over my head, standing right here, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, okay? That's the maintenance of a light source. That's not the sun. Where the people of the state, including Abernathy, that's apartment number 41, is engaged in that P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently 6:47 a.m. P.O.C. All right, it is currently September 20th, 2024. It is Friday, September 20th, 2024 again, and I'm want to punctuate some of the points that I captured regarding video of the Ontario International Airport, which is a state facilitating venue. It is a function of the state. And it is also documented as state action where the entity is engaging in the elements of monitoring, which is demonic. That is speaking to that which is not a coincidence. In other words, it's within a pattern of conduct, and it's also occurring in the specific environment. So that's speaking to what is also not random, but it is directly tethered to the same exact pattern of conduct. And that pattern of conduct is also identified as I am documenting what it is that I'm engaging in, which again, the demon possessed who are engaging in surveillance. This is group stalking. This is keeping you under surveillance physically, wherever you're at 24 hours a day, which is a crime committed by an entity, a public entity. And it's also surveillance that is also unlawful regarding what you're doing on the internet, on communication devices. And so the entity is doing so and engaging in this pattern of conduct via the Ontario International Airport, which is what I captured on video. It's what I'm capturing on an ongoing basis on a PDF document, which again, this is exactly what you see while I'm capturing the pattern of conduct. And it is very specific because this is where the fake sun is rising and setting at every hotel that I went to. I'm capturing the environment that surrounds, which is providing context regarding the behavior patterns that is identical in that specific environment, which is a scientific impossibility. And the entity is surrounded by this, in the cycle of evidence revealing what is state surveillance, and state surveillance is demonic activity. And so this is exposing also what the government, the state of California, is practicing. First of all, it's practicing what is criminal surveillance of an American citizen in violation of your constitutional rights. And it's also a violation of your human rights. In addition to that, it's demonic. And you are aware of, as I'm showing you this evidence that surrounds, for example, the hotel that I'm staying at in Costa Mesa on Newport Boulevard, Best Western. And you can compare that with what happened in Nevada. Even down to the same time, it's impossible that the sun is going to be over me in the position it is in Nevada. And while it's over me, over the entrance area, specifically over my head, and the hotel in Costa Mesa, Orange County, California, where I'm showing you the also with regard to the context, the entity is in that specific environment, which is a phenomenon that the sun is rising and setting at the same address, remaining in its zenith over me, rising and setting in alignment to my physical position, even as I show that I stay at the same position at the same address. The entity that is in that environment is engaging in behavior, which is also relevant to that remarkable environment. It is something that stands out like a sore thumb, and so does their behavior. That behavior is designed to keep someone under surveillance, and this is just revealing surveillance is not that what you're looking at, somebody that's holding up a camera in your face, somebody that is planted in a van, working for, the media like TMZ or something, that engaging in what is surveillance, sitting in a Crown Royale outside of your home. This is surveillance that is occurring, and it is shown through an unrealistic. It's unrealistic with regard to what we've been conditioned to believe about the environment. First of all, that's why it's unrealistic, but it's incapable of occurring outside of the natural realm as we are aware of it, as we pay attention to, or the average person is not paying attention to their environment regarding the supernatural, which is right in front of your face. You're looking at the demonic, as I have documented it with regard to criminal activity that the state of California is engaging in. You are looking at the demonic on an ongoing basis. Not only looking at it, you're listening to it. And so in the video that I captured this morning on September 20th, 2024, you are mindful of, and you will see the impossible light activity. This is demonic light activity. This is engineered light. You are looking at the cloudy sky outside. You're looking at the absence of the light source at this point in the day. You are looking at the lamps that are on the buildings of the Woodside Senior Apartments. And then you're looking at the magnified size of my shadow that is upright in the depths of the apartment. And this is built into a pattern of conduct that is documented. It is impossible light activity, and it has nothing to do with the lights that are on that building, the apartment complex that is outside of the apartment building. Okay. The entity is engaging in what is impossible light activity that's placed inside. You're looking at the demonic environment, engineered light, which has nothing to do with street lamps. It has nothing to do with the bulbs in your apartment. It has nothing to do with the sun. It has nothing to do with the light source. In other words, you've seen the engineered light when the light source is in a position that is totally separate and irreconcilable with the placement of that engineered light. That's the pattern of conduct that's occurring at all times, 24 hours a day. You are looking at what is pacing in the sky space, and this is attributable to an entire airport that is devoting its operations regarding what it is that I'm doing as I am doing it, and that is speaking to the condition of the person flying that plane. That's a demon that's engaging in stalking, which is readily identifiable. This is where the fake sun is rising and setting. You are engaged in stalking in that environment, period. That's exactly what the pattern of conduct establishes. It is stalking by an entire entity, whose behavior, by the way, is in sync and centered around what that targeted individual is doing as they're doing it, and where it is that they're doing it. And the entity is maintaining presence, that is activity, in that specific environment where the sun is rising and setting. That is, again, with regard to the legal identification with regard to prosecuting a public entity that's engaged in criminal surveillance of a demonic nature. So you're talking about creating a naming convention regarding what is unheard of, what is satanic, okay, what is revolving around largely supernatural. But it is something that is embodied in evidence that is tangible and fully submissible in a federal tribunal. So this is what I refer to as the specific environment. This is where plane activity is repeatedly underway as a method of crossing path. The entity is doing so in the environment where the sun is rising and setting. They're even concentrating lowered planes in a manner that you are clearly deviating from the location of that airport, and doing so with simultaneity to what is the engineered light with regard to my conduct, my activity, what I'm doing on a communication device, in sync with the behaviors of the people of the state as I'm documenting the third party. This is a demon in apartment number 55 who was a means of demonic pacing above my head, amplified audible activity, where any and everything is concentrated. So this is somebody that is devoting their placement in the living room to maintain 24-hour surveillance directly above me inside of a private, it's a private space with regard to my remaining inside of a facilitating venue. So understand how you're prosecuting the entity that's engaged in what is surveillance with the constituents of the state, and this is changing the nature of that environment. You're not in a private residence where the specific environment is present. The government is engaged in surveillance, and it's doing it maliciously with and via the constituents of the state who are maintaining elements of monitoring, including utilizing an airport to maintain those elements of monitoring. This is criminal activity that I captured in airport utilizing commercial airline planes to participate in, and the foolishness that is the mental illness of the demon possessed continue and increase in that criminal activity, which will be and is obvious to the entire world, where the entity sought to engage in conduct in plain sight and does it even more so under the false understanding and false and malicious intent to not only at the same time psychologically torture that target individual who would like to report what they're subject to, but in an environment where you are ignorant about the ways in which this demonic pattern of conduct is unfolding. And so you are looking at criminal conduct, which again, the entity does so very foolishly. This is revealing mental illness. You are aware of the fake sun rise and set at the apartment complex. You are aware of the engineered light. You're literally looking at it inside of the apartment, which is light activity, while the amplified sound of planes, which is under no circumstances lawful. It's outside of, again, existing natural laws. You're talking about zoning regulations. You're talking about literally the address and the terminals where these planes are taking off from and the directions that they will be flying, the airlines, the times where they are taking off regarding their destinations and what the entity is doing. These are all the ways in which you are also capable of looking at corroborating evidence. This would be utilized as what is circumstantial evidence regarding what is on its face federal group stalking and monitoring. But nonetheless, the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct in the specific environment, and they are going to the extent of hovering over the senior citizen complex, which is relevant positioning, and it is not the explanation for what is amplified audible activity. You are aware that amplified audible activity is always a part of the pattern of conduct. It's built into the demonic. You are looking at it at all times. It doesn't matter if the demon is walking in front of your face. The demon's footsteps, as you are looking at them right next to you, is amplified in volume. Where that demon is at a distance away from you, it is amplified in volume. It's not based on how realistic, I put that in air quotes, it's not based on how realistic the activity is occurring around the target individual. The entity is not engaging in the demonic behavioral pattern based on the location or the proximity of the target individual to the source of the activity. In other words, here, the Ontario International Airport is the means of audible activity. It's amplified in volume, and it is also occurring maliciously. The sound of the takeoff is because they are necessarily rising in elevation over the apartment complex. However, they are deviating far from the location of the airport where you would be taking off. And at any vantage point, if you are taking off in the direction from the airport, which is not the direction west, you are driving, you are flying from the Ontario International Airport Drive, Archibald, which I've been to the Ontario International Airport, by the way, capturing the fake sun. This is at all hours of the day. And the impossible light activity, including at night. So it's already shown that the Ontario International Airport is fully engaged in state surveillance. I am living and working at Alvarado Gardens, and I am recalling evidence of the fake sun over the Ontario International Airport while I am remaining and looking at the light source over my head through my living room window in Los Angeles, California, rising and setting. At no point would there be any sun. That is the natural environment creating, maintaining, or simultaneously having the sun over the Ontario International Airport. That's speaking to what the entity is engaging in. Again, centering that environment around you while you are also notably documenting it. That's relevant to the ways in which that entity is going to be prosecuted, but it also reveals the mental illness of that entity that does so, continuously does so, in a means that is no longer covert, and showing what is entirely malicious and their mental illness, not only for engaging in it, but still engaging in it when your entire secret system is fully exposed. That is speaking to a very highly mentally deranged entity that's engaging in that, an entity that is full of demon-possessed group stalkers. That's what group stalking is. It's demonic activity. And you have an airport that's fully engaged in that. And so not only have I already surrounded the Ontario International Airport with the evidence of what it is engaging in while it is hovering in elevation with commercial airline planes necessarily deviating from any position from the Ontario International Airport where that low elevation can be explained, other than showing that you are targeting with regard to the placement of that airplane. It is also shown as targeting as I'm documenting what it is that I'm doing. That's also speaking to the sexual violence that the Ontario International Airport practices while they're group stalking, engaging in what is group stalking while genitalia is exposed, private personal activity, and this is what's happening inside of a private space. And where the target individual remains is relevant to what is going to be maintained as the personal and private activity that is being unlawfully invaded by that entity group stalking you. So while apartment number 51, Woodside Senior Apartments, all of the people of the state that are living in relevant position are living at facilitating venues who under no circumstances have any shelter. Under the Constitution, they will be prosecuted as the state actors that they are. They're third parties vicariously engaged in the state's pattern of conduct. They are engaging in what is the invasion of privacy of that target individual, even as that target individual is with the people of the state who you hear engaging in activity creation. Okay, and that's revealing the mental illness of the people of the state and the malice with which you act. That's relevant to the ways in which you will be punished under federal law. And so the entity is engaging in this and doing so while I'm capturing the hovering of commercial airline planes over a senior citizen complex, while impossible light activity is molesting my person, having nothing to do with the lights that you see on the buildings of the apartment complex. That's the pattern of conduct. Recall the impossible light activity filling the hotel room apartment. I keep saying apartment. Forgive me. The hotel room of number 308 at the Holiday Inn. This is the latest venue where I was at. You could see the street lamps in the parking lot, and you recall the evidence when I'm in the parking lot, and light that is above us creates shadows beneath us. And so while you're seeing shadows of the vehicles, for example, in the parking lot, you're also seeing the light activity that's filling the hotel room, which again are mutually exclusive. In addition to that, you're seeing the panel of the window along all of the walls inside of that hotel room. You're seeing my shadow that is upright, multiple shadows inside of that hotel room, which has nothing to do with the street lamps that you're looking at outside. You are, in other words, looking at impossible light activity. This is what is coexisting with the presence of the entity that surrounds, including the audible activity and pacing. And again, while I was at Holiday Inn, the entity was acting with CAL FIRE, who are on the ground pacing in the hotel, all around that hotel, in concert with the people of the state, engaging in sexual violence, keeping a woman under surveillance in a private space at a facilitating venue. That's how you're going to prosecute that entity that is keeping a person under surveillance, and it is a sex offense while you are in their castle, while you are in their private space, and you are in their private space constructively with the impossible light activity, constructively with the amplified audible activity. None of these are naturally occurring phenomenons. They are, again, speaking to the maintenance of a specific environment for criminal surveillance purposes. It is where the entity is stalking in helicopters, as you see the Ontario International Airport stalking in commercial airline planes, doing so while federal stalking in violation of Title 18, 2261A, subsections 1 and 2 is also underway. And they are also doing it with knowledge of the fact, because they are literally keeping the documentation under surveillance. That is why demons who are not ignorant about the operations, criminally abused for purposes of surveillance, Alan D. WAPNER, this demon, who is also on the Ontario City Council, is fully engaged in that pattern of conduct. And by the way, you know that because this is the pattern of conduct that is practiced from city to city, county to county, including in Nevada, so that is state to state. And you are also aware that when you look at things that you can see on the news, such as the Tyreek Hill arrest, where the Miami-Dade police are under a light source that is irreconcilable with the sunrise and set at Woodside Senior Apartments, at the Holiday Inn in Hesperia, California, as I documented it, with the sunrise and sunset, while I am at the Arcadia Motel 6, while at 7:49 a.m., That would be 10:49 a.m. in Miami, Florida. This is irreconcilable with what is over Tyreek Hill and the Miami-Dade police while he is subject to an arrest. Again, this is a context that is not a part of the discourse right now regarding the legality and or illegality of what terrorist organizations masquerading as police departments are actually engaging in. So this is, again, the specific environment that California, the evidence that California is engaging in that pattern of conduct in every single airport, not just as the criminal conduct is demonstrated by the Ontario International Airport, showing the pattern of conduct that they are engaging in when I'm on the freeways, when I'm on the roads and the highways, and the light source is remaining over me, impossible light activity is surrounding me, the people of the state who are demons, who are group stalking while I'm being molested with impossible light. The entity is flying over the freeways, flying over my vehicle, and planes and helicopters. This is state surveillance in the specific environment that is concentrated around a senior citizen complex in Ontario, California, where I have years of pre-existing evidence as well. It is no question about what Alan D. WAPNER is fully engaged in facilitating, knowledgeable about, and also is a documented group stalker while it is occurring under his dangerous and corrupt leadership. Alan D. WAPNER is both on the documented Ontario City Council, where the fake sun is over that city hall. This is what I'm documenting. I've already documented the specific environment of the Ontario City Hall. They're a bunch of demons calling themselves a government body where this pattern of conduct practiced by the state of California is underway. Also, the Ontario International Airport, not a coincidence with regard to government actors in positions of leadership over a corrupt actor such as the Ontario International Airport, engaged in the demonic behavioral pattern designed to keep a woman under surveillance that is inherently designed to psychologically torture, terrorize, harass as an entity, doing so very foolishly, revealing the ways in which the federal government needs to limit the ability to obtain licensure to fly planes and helicopters, where it is used to engage in what is legally relevant demon possession, speaking to mental illness, speaking to a predisposition to criminal activity, violating American citizens. This is all relevant with regard to the crimes that I'm exposing, that the entity is engaging in. And you are literally looking at demonic pacing, that's relevant positioning by commercial airline planes deviating far from any location near the Ontario airport, where you can reconcile this hovering placement over the apartment complex, which is supposed to be the explanation for what you're hearing. It is amplification on its face. Second of all, it is audible activity under all circumstances, which is criminal. They are also doing so repeatedly, 6:40, 6:42 a.m. And the entity is doing so while I'm showing you the fact that my body is being molested with what is impossible light activity, because it is not explained by the very small lamps on the Woodside Senior Apartments apartment buildings. That is the pattern of conduct, and you have seen the iteration of impossible light activity, including under the fake sun, time and time and time again. It is the P.O.C. that the Ontario International Airport is engaging in, and this is evidence that I am including on the podcast. You will hear the video in audio form in order to expose what Alan D. WAPNER is fully apprised of. This is a demon. Do not be deceived by any demon that is a Jewish person. I just want to be clear. I believe, looking at his images, he presents himself as someone who is Jewish. I just want to be clear, in the same way that there is no racial lines, there are no socioeconomic differences regarding the demon possessed, regarding the malice, regarding criminal activity, regarding what you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, and what federal law will prosecute beyond a reasonable doubt, regarding that pattern of conduct and public corruption under those who are, again, Jewish, if that is indeed the true status of Alan D. WAPNER. Jewish or not, I want to be clear. Demons are occupying all races, all ages, as you can see, all neighborhoods, any and every socioeconomic bracket. I am subject to the pattern of conduct while I'm on the freeway going past Mulholland Drive. So you're talking about people that are living in mansions in relevant position while a fake sun remains over me. There's no exception with regard to the absence of the elements of monitoring while I am in any sort of neighborhood among any race, including Jewish people, who are engaging and embodying the same demonic behavioral pattern. And this is someone who I believe is a Jewish person. And the reason why I'm honing in on that is not because I have any sort of vendetta or concern about what he is. This could be a black man. This could be a black woman. This could be an Asian immigrant that is in the same position over the Ontario International Airport, the president of the operations of the Ontario International Airport. And you need to know, and it's relevant because you need to understand who Satan is using, and that includes everyone. You have been conditioned in your mind to believe that only certain people, that only people with particular backgrounds, that people that come from specific lifestyles and engage in and are surrounded by only these type of people with this type of criminal record in this sort of industry that look like this, that have these sorts of tattoos and that hang around those type of people. Those are the only ones that are capable and that would ever engage in and could ever be found and it's all a lie from the pit of hell. Okay, Satan is using the state of California to engage in a satanic pattern of conduct, and it's criminal. And it is notable, if it is indeed, again, circumstantial, whether Alan T. WAPNER is a mulatto or a Jew or a full-on Caucasian person, he's going to be exposed as a group stalker that is engaged in state surveillance, facilitating it in the position of leadership, which is dangerous to the public while this criminal conduct is underway. Using commercial airline planes is, again, the entity's engagement in what is designed to terrorize, harass as an entity, and psychologically torture. Stalking in commercial airline planes is, again, out of the pit of hell. Demons are engaging in this pattern of conduct, and it's criminal because it's in sync with the state that's practicing this criminal system. Surveillance, federal stalking online as well, and doing so while in a position over that actor, which is the airport. You're not ignorant about that. You're fully engaged in it. It is thriving under your dangerous, corrupt leadership. And this is the same pattern of conduct that you're seeing. This is one that also holds a position with the government, and that is the Ontario City Council, a documented group stalker, the fake sun over that city hall. And not only in the morning, in the afternoon, throughout the duration of the day, where the entity is terrorizing me in helicopters at the Ovid Family Community Library. It's literally the same plaza in the Ontario International Airport is group stalking over that same Ontario City Hall. They're fully engaged in state surveillance. Okay. So I'm just pointing out again, what is common sense, what is reasonable, what is unreasonable to deny, what is unreasonable to state ignorance regarding, what is unreasonable regarding what you are in a leadership over while this criminal conduct is underway. You will be dealt with regardless. But I want to be clear. You can deny all you want. It's not relevant to the ways in which you're going to be plucked out of the position that you hold. This criminal conduct happening on your watch, you will be held accountable for it. You will be including prosecution. It is not accepted that you are protected, and that just removing yourself from that position will suffice. Based on the facts and circumstances, you are very well subject to a prosecution. And that is based on, again, the personal nature of federal group stalking and monitoring and any and all state actors who are documented. And then you are subject to an ongoing pattern of conduct that is designed to result in your loss of life and your being kidnapped. That is that government actor specifically targeting you and threatening you and acting, personalizing that pattern of conduct, if you will, based on the entity's knowledge of what it is that you're documenting. So you are understanding and recognizing, and it will be treated accordingly because that's exactly what it is. The government is engaging in targeting you, and as you are documenting them, they engage in, as you have seen, the demon-possessed mental illness is exposed. The more that their conduct is exposed, demons engage in more of that, which is a threat to the public, but it's also a threat with regard to the criminal conduct of a stalker. All right. And that's going to be attributed to the state that is stalking you, doing it through the constituents of the state. And so I just wanted to provide this ongoing commentary regarding the video evidence presented against the state of California, because the entity is in an environment where all of the universe is focused on Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario. And as unintelligent as that sounds, that's exactly what the entity engages in, and it's a matter of evidence for the prosecution of the state. This is where, in that unnatural environment, it sticks out like a sore thumb, this is where the entity is stalking. In helicopters, this is where the entity is stalking in commercial airline planes. And also, as a matter of existing laws, it is unlawful under existing zoning provisions. It is clearly deviating from the location where a plane would be taking off from any direction from the Ontario International Airport at the elevation that I'm capturing, and even the volume of that plane activity, which is heard inside of the depths of the apartment. But I want to be clear, not only on its face you can prosecute under natural law, you're also talking about what is demonic, because you are aware that that's amplified. It's also amplified audible activity. The elevation of that plane is not the explanation for what you're hearing. You are looking at, listening to, witnessing demonic activity that's practiced by the government, and the Ontario International Airport is at the focal point while you see the elements of monitoring underway as I'm documenting it on video, captured at 6:40 a.m. It is currently, again, September 20th, 2024, and this is P.O.C. All right, it is currently 8:59 a.m. and this is documentation showing the ongoing impunity and malice with which the Ontario International Airport is concentrating plane activity. This is the use of commercial airline planes to engage in the stalking conduct that an entity practices in a readily identifiable specific environment. And so while I am simultaneously creating a Google account, this is what I'm heavily documenting the pattern of conduct. For example, at Alvarado Gardens, the entity amplifying helicopter activity at the same time that I began creating a Google account. And I'm showing you the impossible light activity inside of my apartment, the fake sun over my apartment, the demons who are the people of the state group stalking in the path with the method of light. In other words, all the iterations of the same exact P.O.C. Ontario International Airport is amplifying plane activity in the way that I showed in the two videos captured at 6:37 a.m. and 6:40 a.m., where you're looking at also the method of light activity that's occurring inside of the apartment, which is absolutely impossible, having nothing to do with the light that are the light fixtures that are along the apartment building. That's very, subtle light. It's not even creating a shadow on the ground when I'm at this point in the day. It's a cloudy day, but yet you're looking at that concentrated light activity where my shadow. And I'm laughing not because it's humorous. Group stalking is very serious. This is an ongoing conspiracy by a government to murder or kidnap you. Because there's no legitimate purpose for an airport to target its operations around what you're doing. So this is making, again, what is relevant to what is a sex offender that's focused on you and everything that's going on in your life. And there's no reason why an airport should be fixating its operations around what one person is doing. And that's what it's doing while the Ontario International Airport is group stalking and engaged in federal stalking. This is what a police department is doing while it's group stalking. And this is what a population is doing while it is group stalking. And this is a sex offense committed by the government that's engaged in criminal surveillance. Just speaking to the sex offense that the entity is engaging in while it's targeting you. Nonetheless, while I'm creating a Google account, I've already captured what the pattern of conduct is doing. It's exactly what the Ontario International Airport is engaged in. While I've captured the fake sun over me as early as 10:30 in the morning, for example, and as late as 6 p.m., where the Ontario Police Department is group stalking in helicopter day and night, which is already a part of the pattern of conduct. And while I've captured all of the impossible light activity that's inside of the apartment, absolutely incongruent with the maintenance of a light source that the entity would like to be confused with the sun. And there's no confusion, nor is it possibly the natural environment as I've captured that light source. The presence of that light source equals the prosecution of the Ontario International Airport, where the government is engaged in group stalking through every police department, sheriff's department, fire department, and airport with regard to the aerial surveillance. And this is going to be the prosecution for a perpetual sex offense by a government that's using commercial airline planes to maintain elements of monitoring. And again, based on the construction of this facilitating venue that is Woodside Senior Apartments, where I want to be clear, the population that lives here, group stalking, is 55 and older. So this is, again, removing from your mind with regard to no discrimination with regard to race, age, languages, where the elderly are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. This is a demon that's over 55, that's group stalking, and is healthy enough to engage in demonic pacing. I want to be clear that vitality that this elderly citizen has is based on the demon that is animating the psychotic behavioral pattern. And based on the structure of this apartment complex, there's only one apartment that is directly above. So it's a two-story apartment complex, meaning there's only one apartment. I'm on the first floor, apartment 51, and in relevant position is number 55. And this is criminal surveillance by a demon that is concentrating activity. And this elderly person is, again, the method of criminal presence in the apartment. The demonic pacing is occurring in sync with the aerial surveillance, and the demons are engaging in pacing all around the apartment complex. For example, traffic. I've shown you the entity that's group stalking in the parking lot where they park in alignment to the apartment complex, and keeping a vehicle there is a method of presence in the path. And any demon, the entire entity that's group stalking, so you'll have people that don't live here, and it's again occurring under the guise of, oh, I'm visiting, I'm delivering a package, I am moving out, I'm loading and unloading, whatever it is that they're doing. It's light activity, relevant positioning, and this is the malice with which an entity engages in that P.O.C, and it is in sync, in concert, in facilitating the demonic pacing coming from 55, the amplified audible activity, which is demonic pacing via commercial airline planes. And the entity is acting in sync with the demons who are in traffic on Vine and G Street. Traffic is a means of demonic pacing. This is what you're seeing, for example, when I'm at the Glendale DMV, and impossible light activity is coexisting with what an entity would like to be mistaken for ordinary, everyday, free, constitutionally protected activity, and it's not. Under the fake sun at the Glendale DMV, which is creating no provision for there to ever be a sun over Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, in the position that I'm capturing it as well, the entity is molesting and terrorizing, harassing with impossible light activity, swiping across the Glendale DMV as I'm documenting at approximately 9:08 in the morning. That's what the people of the state are doing. 24 hours a day group stalking, even at nightfall when you are looking at impossible light activity that is not caused by headlights. In the same way you see impossible light activity inside of this apartment that's not caused by the light fixtures that are connected to the apartment building outside of this wall. In the same way that the impossible light activity that's stretching above the window inside of this apartment, above the screen door inside of this apartment, lining the ceiling, going behind the front door, down to the floor, appearing on the closet hallway, closet door, appearing above the door, moving all around. The more that I take pictures, the more that the impossible light activity moves around, which is, again, the personification of the demons who are group stalking this demonic environment. Speaking to the demonic behaviors. This is what Satan is doing. Satan is personified. Satan is able to be identified through the unnatural environment that surrounds. And this environment is speaking to what is surveillance of a demonic nature. And the demon possessed are equally deranged, and they engage in more of their demonic behaviors, which is criminal. They're engaged in surveillance. You are engaged in surveillance, engaging in any activity creation. You are therefore not free to engage in the malicious pattern of conduct on behalf of the government living at an apartment complex. You're not free to work there while you're simultaneously group stalking. You're not free to fly over that sky space while you're simultaneously group stalking. And that is a matter of direct evidence where that a supernatural environment is there for that criminal system. And it is malice that the government is employing while group stalking you. So, and they're doing it through the people of the state. And that's how you have the ability to prosecute that beyond a reasonable doubt, because there's nothing that the LAPD with regard to the specific environment has in common with the demons of the Ontario Police Department and the Ontario International Airport with regard to the pattern of federal group stalking and monitoring. And the constituents are the same entity, the demon possessed people of the state of California who are occupying apartment number 55, engaged in the demonic behavioral patterns. And so while I'm creating a Google account, again, this is the same P.O.C, and that's why I went through all that to remind you exactly what the world is already aware of, what the Ontario International Airport is engaging in. And this is, again, the deranged psychopaths that are the people of the state using commercial airline planes to engage in violence against one person, stalking. This is a mentally deranged person that's flying commercial airline planes. A mentally deranged entity that are crawling into commercial planes to group stalk one person. I am so important that they're using them to stalk with simultaneity. That's very demonic. That is an uncanny ability, the same stalking with activity conduct, how you are able to keep your activity creation in sync with literally the pressing of the screen on my phone. Understand that this is not natural human behavior. That's demonic in and of itself, but you are also a whole demon-possessed psychopath. You are a deranged lunatic when you are stalking somebody using planes and helicopters. In the same way that literally what you're doing inside of your apartment, which is a facilitating venue, and you will find yourself at the center of a federal prosecution by literally your address group stalking at a facilitating venue, which happens to be Woodside Senior Apartments. The entire community is group stalking, including Avanath, who's making money off of the demons living at Woodside Senior Apartments. They're making money off of the demons that are employed by Avanath communities, group stalking. And so I want to be clear, they're group stalking with the vendors who are contracted with Avanath communities, Woodside Senior Apartments, group stalking. They are making money while the population, where the people of the state are visiting, group stalking with the state. They're making money while the Ontario Police Department, while the Ontario International Airport is hovering over, while group stalking, in other words, is underway. Avanath Communities is profiting. That's why Avanath Communities is being simultaneously prosecuted. This is how you will, in every way, civilly and criminally reveal the ways in which you are punishing this criminal activity that the government is engaged in and simultaneously making money. Avanath Communities is not a legitimate business. They are in the shoes of the state, profiting while state surveillance is occurring on their real property, which you will be held civilly and criminally liable for. This is what Ted Speaker was engaged in while his workforce and while the people of the state who paid rent to him were group stalking in the same exact manner in an environment that is irreconcilable. There's no sun rising and setting at Alvarado Gardens seen through any of my living room and bedroom windows while it's remaining over Woodside Senior Apartments at any hour of the day. This is where the Ontario International Airport is stalking me with the audible activity creation in sync with my operation of a communication device. That's the demon-possessed entity engaged in surveillance on the internet. Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. And it is only the unintelligent, demon-possessed, and highly deranged lunatics who engage in that conduct in a manner that could be captured with regard to evidence that will be used against them in court. Only the deranged and delusional demon-possessed, that's the public safety concern. The fact that the entity is group stalking in the United States. And secondly, the fact that the demon-possessed who are highly mentally ill engage in more violence, more criminal conduct, more aggression is exhibited while they are exposed, which is the personality of Satan. So understand what I'm both exposing is what I'm prosecuting, and it is also as a public service announcement because it needs to be known what occupies the lands in this country. And they are walking around mentally ill without any diagnosis, without any criminal record, exposing the fact that they are a threat to the American citizens whom they are targeting. And they are the demon possessed, including this is again the terrorist that is over the in a position of leadership over the corrupt airport that's making money while they're using commercial airline planes. Every airline is engaged in federal stalking. Every single airline that is operating in any capacity of the Ontario International Airport is engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct. They are using those planes also, as I'm capturing on video and in audible activity, to engage in elements of monitoring. That they're engaging in surveillance. And also you need to know that these airlines serve Satan while they're engaged in a demonic pattern of conduct. You might want to keep that in mind before you get on their planes and Satan is flying you to any location. These are the same entities, by the way, where you have planes disappearing and you have investigations that the people of the state are reporting to you on the news, and all they have is the black box and no one knows where the plane is. These are the likes of those that are engaging in flying these planes. Planes that were flown into the New York skyscrapers on 9/11. These are the likes of those that engage in that conduct. You have planes where the entity is engaging in what is accidents, inexplicable, horrendous events where a massive loss of life occurs, where demons, these are psychopaths, these are terrorists, as what I'm exposing, criminal conduct. They're flying commercial airline planes and people's lives are at risk. And this is the criminal system that they're engaging in. There are signs, there are warnings. They are just not being exposed. And it is not without knowledge the fact that people have lost their lives in ways in which could have been known beforehand if this system were exposed, because it's the people of the state, the demon possessed, that are engaged in murdering people, sacrificing mass amounts of people. And it is reported on the news as accidents. It's reported on the news as, for example, terrorist attacks that are committed by outsiders of this country. I just want to be clear. The same country that is keeping American citizens secretly under surveillance, and not a secret anymore, is the same one that gave us the explanation about what happened on American soil. So all I am stating with regard to the pattern of conduct is that Americans are the ones that are flying commercial airline planes, stalking, group stalking, terrorizing American citizens. And this same government is the one that has given us the iteration about what happened on 9/11. That is just food for thought.
Not only can you not trust what that government is stating, that government is literally engaging in terrorism on soil, on American soil, against American citizens. That's why you're stalking someone in commercial airline planes. And by the way, doing so reveals the fact that you are a mentally deranged lunatic who has no business in possession of a pilot's license. This is something that, again, the demon that is over the Ontario International Airport, and let me repeat his name, Alan D. Wapner, is fully aware of and is fully engaged in and has been for a prolonged period, making money. This is a group stalker by virtue of the facilitation that is underway while you are in a position of corrupt leadership and this criminal system is happening on your watch. You're making money while this criminal system is happening on your watch. You are fully aware of the location where these planes are going, where the expenditures that are included in group stalking, using the airplanes, using the airlines, using the airports to engage in state surveillance. It's the same thing with the police departments. They know exactly all the money that is included in group stalking and engaging in 24-hour surveillance using these resources of these corrupt law enforcement agencies. There's no ignorance, nor can you reasonably contend ignorance, nor will you be removed from the position on anything other than facilitation. You're not ignorant and you will be held accountable. But you also need to know that this is a demonic pattern of conduct. These are demons that are strategically placed in these positions of leadership to enable and facilitate this pattern of conduct. And legally, with regard to holding corrupt actors accountable, they're not accidentally or coincidentally nor ignorantly in these positions of leadership where a satanic pattern of conduct is underway. They are puppets of Satan. And this satanic pattern of conduct is occurring on their watch because they're fully engaged in it. All right. So that's what Alan D. Wapner is. Whether or not he is a Jewish, you need to understand that this is a demon-possessed Jewish male who is engaged in serving Satan. And that's why you have demons stalking in commercial airline planes over a senior citizen complex where the sun is rising and setting, which is on its face the pattern of conduct, which again, the city of Ontario has been documented for years. That's how you already know what LAPD was doing on day one when I captured them stalking in helicopters under the fake sun and engineer light. You already knew that because Ontario International Airport has already provided an evidence, has already been surrounded with evidence speaking to what it foolishly engaged in on video and images and on podcasts, as though the sun is going to be rising and setting over the Ontario town square, which is where the Ontario Police Department are on video and images, group stalking in plain sight, calling it a farmer's market. This is all evidence that's already on the record, keeping a fake sun over the Ontario International Airport while I'm on Route 61 of the Omnitrans, headed toward the Fontana Lewis Library, going eastbound, going toward Pomona, the Pomona Transit Center going westbound, or the Starbucks on Ramona and Holt Boulevard in Montclair, where the entity is stalking in helicopter. That's the Montclair Police Department. Where the Fontana Police Department are stalking in helicopter. That's the Fontana Police Department. Where the Ontario Police Department are group stalking and at the Ontario International Airport, where they're maliciously engaging what is something that's supposed to be attributed to their roles, while they're stalking in the path under the fake sun and engineered light, creating light activity, which is the outward demonstration of demon possession, as opposed to policing at an airport. That is the greater context regarding the public corruption that's underway in Ontario, which is San Bernardino County, and what is mutually exclusive to there being any sun ever, not only in LA, but it was literally over me in LA at the Alvarado Gardens apartments, where demons lived at the Alvarado Gardens complex, engaged in surveillance, and the demons that are speaker companies engaged in surveillance with that entity, and that entire property is going to federal prison for it. That's the pattern of conduct that's underway here. And as I create my Google account online, pursuant to Title 18 criminal activity that is underway, a demon is already lying in wait in position to stalk, that is with simultaneity of my operation of my communication device, cross path with his while amplified audible activity simultaneously occurring. And so that's creating audible activity in line with your operation of your communication device, which is, as I have defined it, the demon possessed are engaging that on an ongoing basis. That is the surveillance system. That is relevant positioning, audible activity, light activity, doing so on an ongoing basis, and also doing so with regard to my physical movements and operation of a communication device. That's demonic activity that an airport is engaging in, and they are going far beyond any location of taking off from the Ontario International Airport to do so. And they're doing so in sync with my physical movements and also with my activity on a communication device, which is relevant for federal stalking that the Ontario International Airport, the airlines, are engaging in. As you're looking at those planes, you are looking at the prosecution of not only the Ontario International Airport, the people of the state, but also the airlines who will also be prosecuted. Every single airline. It doesn't have to be, for example, Avianco as the specific airline with regard, and it's not going to be isolated. What the entity is doing all together. Okay. The entity is using any and whatever airline. There's no particular airline that's engaging in something that's distinct from what the rest of the airlines are engaging in. And the entire airport and every single airline in the state of California coming in and out of the state of California is engaged in both federal stalking and state surveillance. And that's exactly how they're going to be prosecuted, while I have that direct evidence again in 2024. So I just want to speak to the demon that is in apartment 55. They are isolated with regard to the sole means of something directly above my head, creating ongoing demonic pacing and amplified audible activity. But the entity is exchanging that with the sound of amplified train activity, entirely demonic, impossible to hear, and amplified plane activity, entirely demonic, and that which is going far outside of the bounds of existing zoning laws, but also the means whereby they're engaging in the same pattern, amplified audible activity that is also occurring at the same time I'm engaging in any and everything inside of the apartment. It's the elements of monitoring in the specific environment. And that's what you'll see on video. And it is in conformity to the pattern of conduct. And the entity is doing so with knowledge of the fact that they're being documented, which again, Alan D. WAPNER, somebody that is to be removed from the position. This is public corruption that Alan D. WAPNER is also being exposed for, and doing so with the constituents of the state, doing so with a corrupt airport that is engaged in state surveillance, not what an airport is supposed to be engaged in. Centering the operations of an airport around what one person is doing is showing the psychotic and highly obsessive pattern of conduct underway in conformity to the P.O.C. It is currently, again, 9:19 a.m. and this is documenting what you will see on the Google Drive. I'll be uploading the evidence. And the evidence, the date and time that is published onto the Google Drive is also built into the evidence against the state, because that's the same time that the entity is flying over in planes. And the entity is doing so. It's just, remember, plane is just one method. The plane, the train, the ongoing amplification of any plane, while the entity is aware that I'm documenting the Ontario International Airport, the entity is doing the same thing while it amplifies plane activity, a smaller plane. It is the same aerial surveillance, which is what the entity has also already been surrounded with the evidence of engaging in. It is the pattern of conduct. I've shown all the multiplicity of ways the entity is engaging in the same exact P.O.C. Okay. And the bottom line is all the entity is doing is engaging in obsessive stalking by pacing all around above me and all around my person. By the constituents of the state. The government can't do it by itself. The government's relying also on the appearance of everyday society, the demons who make up the state, the people of the state, to engage in that demonic pacing together. And that's what's occurring at a senior citizen complex where somebody over 55 is group stalking another person, and they're not acting as a private citizen. They're acting in the shoes of the state, and they will be prosecuted as such. And this sex offending psychopath that is of elderly age is also going to federal prison, just like any other domestic terrorist with whom there will be no negotiation whatsoever. Okay, so it is currently 9:21 a.m. where that sex offense is underway, and federal stalking violation of Title 18 remains underway. And this is exactly the same exact conduct that the entity was surrounding me with 24/7 at Alvarado Gardens. And that's what is so profound about the evidence that I capture while I step outside of the front door and I'm showing you the light source directly above the top of my head. But then again, this is exactly what I'm capturing when I'm in Arcadia, when I'm in San Diego, when I am in Costa Mesa, when I'm in Las Vegas, when I am on the freeway in San Bernardino, when I'm at the intersection at any time of day. This is what, again, this is what I mean with regard to the statement. Idiots stalking under a fake sun. Okay. Covering up that light source at any point in the day will under no circumstances ever erase the fact that it was there. It will never cease to be the demonic environment where demons are stalking, revealing what is indeed group stalking. And it is a government system. And it is showing what are in fact demons, because strangers know who you are while they're stalking you. And that condition of those stalkers is known. They're demons who know exactly who you are. And they're engaging in a demonic pattern of conduct, speaking to a specific signature, a method, a malicious form of stalking by a population, and they're demons doing so. Okay, that's also revealing the demonic nature of group stalking that the government is practicing. It is currently 9:22 a.m. on September 20, 2024. This is prosecution of the state utilizing the airports in any city or county. Ontario Airport is providing the template whereby the state is engaging in surveillance throughout city to city, county to county, as I've already shown. All right, it is currently again 9:22 a.m. This is P.O.C. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. This is helicopter activity. And I'm currently up, that's crossing path by FSA family. It's crossing path by another demon on foot. That's helicopter activity while I'm uploading onto Google Drive. Surveillance in the parking lot. This whole community is engaged in surveillance, and so is Tracy Banks in the parking lot, okay, with the Ontario Police Department. She is going to federal prison. She's group stalking with the rest of the demons whose name you don't need to know, okay? 7FMD 286, federal prison. Tracy Banks is sitting in relevant position like the rest of the population, group stalking while the entity flies over by helicopter. She's, by the way, been engaged in surveillance with the Ontario Police Department for years. Avanaf Communities is engaged in surveillance with the Ontario Police Department as well. It's the method of amplified audible activity while I'm uploading evidence onto the venue of the internet. That's P.O.C. That's called light activity. And here's the, again, what Mike LORENZ is going to be prosecuted for. This is where the entity is keeping a fake sun during the day and the moon at night. This is called crossing a path. This is going on the podcast as well. This is state surveillance. This is what the Ontario International Airport we're engaging in. It's amplified audible activity in the specific environment. And you're looking at, again, a third party. That's a mentally ill, demon-possessed person whose name I know, Tracy Banks. She's creating light activity, walking around the vehicle in engineered light. She's doing the same thing with the rest of the population, and doing so, again, maliciously while the police department flies over the apartment complex, amplifying audible activity in the same way that the Ontario International Airport are. This is what Alan D. WAPNER and Mike LORENZ, these are demons in corrupt positions of leadership, while this system of state surveillance is underway. That's federal stalking, while I am currently uploading evidence online right now. And this way, again, the demon in apartment 55 is the only one that's above. She's engaged in, he or she's engaged in ongoing demonic pacing, while you can see the engineered light that stretches beyond the door. That's impossible light activity. You're looking at the light, you're looking at the group stalking in helicopter. Amplification, P.O.C. Mike LORENZ is fully aware of, in the same way that Alan D. WAPNER is aware of the surveillance by the Ontario International Airport. And I just want to be clear, the light source is subdued, it's right here, and it has nothing to do with the impossible light activity inside of the apartment. Avanaf Communities is a method of audible activity. A demon uses a vacuum. All manner of noise in the engineered light is the P.O.C. All right, this, what you saw this morning, the engineered light that created my shadow on this wall is impossible light activity. You're looking at engineered light that's now appearing on the down here. That's illuminated light. It's a method of crossing a path by helicopter. That's criminal conduct that Mike LORENZ is going to be removed from the position that he currently holds. He's a domestic terrorist. This is impossible light activity. And the demons that are the Ontario Police Department, the likes of Jay Burnett, the likes of Jason Knighton and L. Keys, who are going to federal prison, engaging in what is kidnapping, harassment, terrorism, while the entity is stalking in helicopter. That entire police department's engaged in state surveillance and federal stalking. They're stalking in the specific environment. This is a method of impossible light activity having nothing to do with sunlight. Okay, this is light that's being, has nothing to do with the placement of the light source, which is also documented over this venue. This is a maintenance of engineered light while the population, including Tracy Banks, is engaged in federal stalking with the rest of the demons whose name you don't have to know. You don't need to know. They're in the environment, maintaining the elements of monitoring together. I am right now at what is 9:31 a.m. uploading video and images and screenshots onto the Google Drive, which is my operation of the internet, which all the entity is engaged in Title 18 criminal activity surveilling, and the pattern of conduct is to maintain the elements of monitoring. This is impossible light. The sun that would be above us is something that would have light coming at a downward trajectory, and inside you're talking about an angle where it is shooting horizontally, and then also behind, above the door and behind the wall, above onto the ceiling. You can see the engineered light right here that has nothing to do with sunlight. This is the demonic. The demons are stalking in the sky space. That's the Ontario Police Department. And just like the Ontario International Airport, the evidence of that criminal system is being uploaded while the demons of the OPD are crossing path in helicopter. Mike Lorenz is fully engaged in that. In the same way that L&D WAPNER is fully engaged in that, where planes and helicopters are the method of amplified audible activity terrorism and sexual violence, keeping a woman under surveillance inside of what, and during every other personal private moment, is public information amongst males and females engaged in state surveillance of a demonic nature. The maintenance of engineered light is present while the entity is crossing path. This is illuminated light down here. This is the P.O.C. right here. This has nothing to do with sunlight. It's showing you the specific environment, nothing to do with what you're seeing, an opening where engineered light is illuminated inside of the apartment. Okay, that's not the nature of light that's going to occur. This is a shaded venue. The entity is engaged in ongoing amplified audible activity. Avanath Communities is group stalking by using their demon that's working for the property is group stalking, creating audible activity under the guise of using the vacuum. Okay, so you're looking at what is shaded. Okay, there's not going to be any sort of concentrated light. That's the concentrated light out here. Has nothing to do with your understanding what is engineered light. You're looking at the demonic. The elements of monitoring remain underway. You're looking at illuminated light that's occurring on the ground down here at the curb. You're looking at, excuse me, at the bottom of the doorway. You're looking at illuminated light that's appearing inside of the hallway. Stalking in the airspace includes by the helicopters and airplanes, which is also where the entity's keeping the fake sun, which is over the property. It is directly here. It is subdued. It is the same fake sun that's remaining everywhere that I go, including in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I'm documenting the light source that's not going to be over Woodside Senior Apartments at the same time. All right, that's the P.O.C. And that is looking at, again, Tracy Banks, fully engaged in criminal defamation as a matter of evidence, fully engaged in what is kidnapping with this entity on more than one occasion, and in 2024 is still engaged in the pattern of conduct under the guise of living at a facilitating venue, group stalking her own daughter, which is exactly what you're engaging in the specific environment, having no shelter, not engaging in any constitutionally protected activity, while group stalking with the state, who you just saw engaged in the pattern of conduct in the specific environment, is where the state is engaged in surveillance in concert with the people of the state. This demon in apartment 55 is going to federal prison. This entire property, including Avanath Communities, is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted. It is the basis of federal prison. Where you see the fake sun, this is exactly where you see the fake moon at night, where Ontario police, who are just flying over this apartment building, are at night under the fake moon flying over this apartment building, which again creates what is sensational activity, which is impossible activity creation, while Tracy Banks, a demon whose name I know, is pacing around like the demon that she is. She's a psychopath. That's the public safety concern. Those that are targeting American citizens, whether they're blood related to you or not, whether your friends married to them, working with them. This is the threat that the workforce, as I was subject to it by speaker companies in Los Angeles. Again, demons whose name you know, fully engaged in the pattern of conduct, engaged in the P.O.C. in a manner, in an environment that is irreconcilable. For example, where LAPD was stalking day and night where the sun was rising and setting. That light source over Alvarado Gardens over my head is not going to be over Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario. None of it's creating any of this light activity. This is the direct evidence of state surveillance. And that's what I just captured. While the entity does so, because they're engaged in surveillance online, with simultaneity immediately as I begin uploading evidence online, the demon up here begins pacing around, which is amplified audible activity, and the demons that are the OPD, which Mike Lorenz is a demon-possessed government actor. He's fully engaged in state surveillance and federal stalking. That's why the pattern of conduct is underway by that entirely corrupt department. Years, by the way, of documentation of criminal activity by a terrorist organization. The Ontario Police Department is to be disbanded upon federal prosecution, and the entity will produce the information regarding the name of the particular demon who's going to federal prison, who was just documented group stalking a helicopter. All right. And it's the same for every criminal act that has been documented by the Ontario Police Department. In addition, that's exactly what Alan D. Wapner is engaged in and is fully cognizant about, as I'm documenting the same exact elements of monitoring by the demons hovering over a senior citizen complex and commercial airline planes in sync with my activity on the internet, publishing it online. It is, again, 9:36 a.m. This is amplified audible activity by a corrupt police department. P.O.C. flying directly over. That's P.O.C. And here's the fake sun right here. Saw the Los Angeles Police Department engaging in as I documented it from February of 2024 up until July 2024, and it is currently 9:36 a.m. I'm documenting the Universal Waste Systems crossing path in the parking lot of the Alvarado Gardens Apartments, and the entity is engaged in that POC. This is speaking to the specific environment. Remember, at 9:36, and it's still right here at 5 in the evening, creating what is impossible light activity inside of the bedroom right here, inside of the apartment. All manner of what is this light source has nothing to do with the impossible light that's upward along the ceiling and behind the front door, has nothing to do with what is distinct method of identifying the pattern of conduct by demons stalking in helicopters, the fake sun, and the entire population is group stalking with it. That's why the fake sun is over the apartment complex, acting in sync as the demon in 55. Pacing around on the traffic is the people of the state, and that's criminal conduct walking under the fake sun, where a population is engaged in that same exact condition. It is currently, again, were you looking at the fake sun over Woodside Senior Apartments at 408 West G Street in Ontario, California? The light source is the ongoing indicator regarding state surveillance while they're engaged in federal stalking on the venue of the internet. And this is the impulsivity, which is speaking to the criminal system that you're subject to by a population, not only the demons who are showing engaging in evidence against the people of the state. That's the unintelligent, demon-possessed, and corrupt agency, the terrorist organization masquerading as a police enforcement agency. I want to be clear. There is no sun that's over the Holiday Inn in Hesperia at 9750 Key Point, like I'm documenting through the hallway window of that hotel facing the 7-Eleven in Hesperia, California. As a matter of evidence, from 7:51 until 3:05 p.m., it remained visible over that hotel window as I looked out of it, and that impossible light activity that's on the floor, moving down the wall and across the floor up to the opposite wall, where the demons who are calling themselves housekeepers, the demons that are calling themselves Cal Fire Department, the demons who are pacing in and out, maintaining presence at that hotel, were engaged in state surveillance. And you have what is mutually exclusive. The light source that's over Woodside Senior Apartments is not going to be seen at any hour of the day through that hotel window, nor through my window, nor over the hotel itself, which I captured during the 9 a.m. hour. That's speaking to the malice that Tracy Banks is engaged in. That's speaking to the ongoing pattern of conduct, the elements of monitoring, and this light activity has nothing to do with that fake sun that's outside above the building, creating no light activity that's going to appear above the window behind the front door. That is speaking to the conformity of a POC that's demonic, while a demon above you is engaging in stalking you all day long with the entity that does so, the hallmark, stalking in helicopters. And again, the mental illness of demons that are bearing weapons, stalking in helicopters, masquerading as police departments, doing so, group stalking you. And that's a heavily documented kidnapper. Mike LORENZ is going to be prosecuted, going to be removed from the position that he holds. These are domestic terrorists in the state of California. That's what all of these demons that are calling themselves chiefs of police, while a pattern of conduct, very specific, stalking in helicopters is a very specific and specialized method of group stalking in California in that specific environment. And it is shown as the intent to do so and to psychologically torture while that specific environment is demonstrated and the population acts in conformity to that POC while engaged in federal stalking, knowledgeable about the evidence that's being published against it. That's the conduct that Alan D. Wapner, the demon that's over the Ontario International Airport, centering operations around where I am, what I'm doing as I'm doing it, while engaging in the pattern of conduct in the same way that you see the entity group stalking by plane and helicopter flying directly over my apartment is relevant positioning in the same way that the demons flying in relevant position over the senior citizen complex, equally amplifying the audible activity and the equally impossible light activity. That's the POC as you see it at nightfall and during the day. And the entity provides that wealth of evidence for the world to witness. This will be the removal of demons who are strategically placed in positions of leadership where a pattern of conduct by the entity is underway, meaning they are not ignorant, they are fully engaged in it. And that is, again, the demon that is a president over the over the operations that the Ontario International Airport is engaged in, state surveillance and federal stalking. And that is the same with Mike LORENZ. This is a domestic terrorist engaged in that pattern of conduct and the specific environment with with knowledge, specific knowledge about what's being documented as it's documented. There's no ignorance regarding a pattern that the entire department is mirroring, is repeating while I'm going from city to city, state to state, even county to county. This is speaking to a very specific pattern of conduct. Again, it's 9:41 a.m. I'm documenting the fake sun over the Costa Mesa, Best Western, in Orange County during at approximately 9:46 a.m. There's no sun that's going to be over the Best Western in Costa Mesa, California, while you're looking at it over me right here, while the entity is keeping this fake sun as I've documented at 10:30, at 11, at 12, at 1 o'clock, and it's still here in a perfect alignment, and while impossible light activity fills the apartment after 5 p.m., where you're seeing that same demon possessed agency flying over my apartment right now, group stalking under that same maintenance of a fake sun, providing the crime scene where a population is engaged in surveillance. And this is a sex offense committed by a population. And these are elderly people, speaking to no exception regarding demon possession, no exception regarding criminal conduct, contrary to what it is you have been conditioned to think regarding the crime rate, regarding those that are more inclined or predisposed to engage in criminal conduct. These are demons that are secretly targeting people, conspiring with the government to engage in murdering and kidnapping people. And they do it in America, in California, while wanting to appear as though engaging in life as usual. And there's nothing usual about it. There's nothing normal about it. In fact, as you look at the evidence, the body of evidence and the conformity with that pattern of conduct, you're seeing what is a highly malicious and very highly deranged pattern. It is unmistakable. And that is speaking to, again, what justice requires and necessitates: a very intense federal prosecution of a public entity. This is the maintenance of engineered light. It's present both at 7 in the morning. It's present at 6 in the evening. It has nothing to do with the fake sun, which you saw over me while the entity flew directly over me in helicopter, while the Ontario International Airport is doing the exact same thing, amplifying plane activity, flying over a senior citizen complex. Alan D. WAPNER is engaged in the pattern of conduct, the state engaged in state surveillance and federal stalking, for which he should be removed from that position that he holds. He's fully engaged in it, and this is a demon. I want to make sure that you know that personal business that he doesn't want you to know about. And it's the same with Mike LORENZ. This is a corrupt government actor. This is a domestic terrorist over a terrorist organization, group stalking, which is what the Ontario International Airport. What you need to understand about these airlines, they are engaged in terrorism while simultaneously profiting, while keeping American citizens under surveillance, group stalking them, and doing so, threatening you with the demons who are bearing weapons using helicopters because they're mad because Alan D. WAPNER is going to be removed from the position that he holds. He's going to be exposed as a demon-possessed psychopath, a closeted sex offender, and a terrorist engaging in stalking and group stalking with the demons who are using airlines flying over this senior citizen complex, in concert with the demons who are group stalking living at the apartment complex, which is what the demon in number 55 represents. The ongoing amplified audible activity in the engineered light. This demon's engaged in 24-hour surveillance, and she's going to federal prison. Okay, unmistakable. There's no sun that's going to be over Alvarado Gardens while it's seen on video with the entity hallmark stalking in planes and helicopters in the specific environment. It is P.O.C. It is currently 9:44 a.m. and you saw again the unfathomable, speaking to what the rest of the population is engaged in. Those who you know and don't know engaged in the pattern of conduct. And Tracy Banks is a mentally deranged psychopath, group stalking her own blood relative, targeting her own. You've also seen her group stalking with impossible light activity. That is engineered light as though it's shooting off of her car while she's driving by me. She's a group stalking demon whose name I know, which makes it, again, providence in order to prosecute the rest of the state. There is no discrimination. There's no distinction. There is no difference with regard to the elements and the specific environment that controls, revealing what is a malicious pattern of conduct that the government is engaging in. And because she's group stalking with the Ontario Police Department, Tracy Banks is going to federal prison, just like every other demon that I've documented engaged in the P.O.C. Mike LORENZ and Alan D. WAPNER are the demons in corrupt leadership, acting with the state that is engaged in the elements of monitoring. This is a demonic pattern of conduct intended and engaged in to maintain criminal surveillance, doing so in the aerial surveillance, and also surveillance on the internet in violation of Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. This is video captured. It's currently 9:45 a.m. and the entity is maintaining this fake sun over this apartment complex until after 6 p.m. as a matter of documentation. That is not the natural environment, nor is this light activity indicative of the natural environment. It is, however, in conformity to the pattern of conduct that, again, the third party whose name I know, Tracy Banks, is on video engaged in the elements of monitoring. This is someone that is telling you to your face that they love you, acting maliciously on behalf of the state in a position where they can be involved in your life while they are actively engaged in the ongoing conspiracy to murder and kidnap you, which Tracy Banks and the Ontario Police Department are documented engaging in criminal criminal defamation, and multiple acts of kidnapping. This is also why you have many that are going to federal prison, employed, whether or not they're still employed with the Ontario Police Department, they're going to federal prison. And you're talking about what is the grounds of disbanding. A terrorist organization such as the Ontario Police Department using and abusing and devoting their operations of the police department to engage in surveillance, that is speaking to the absence of any need by the city for that terrorist organization. It's not needed, and you can start over again with another non-corrupt agency. And Ontario Police Department has demonstrated their disqualification, their outright disregard for abiding by what are the constitutional norms, the expectation with regard to their knowledge that they've been documented, and they have shown an outright disregard to in any way cease to engage in surveillance and criminal conduct and terrorism on its face. While they foolishly, knowing video was rolling, they flew right over my head. You saw that on video. You're talking about many that are going to federal prison, and this is the basis for disbanding terrorist organizations such as LAPD, another one, the Fontana Police Department, and the Ontario Police Department. All right, it is currently, again, 9:47 a.m. This is P.O.C. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C., and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, repeatedly flying over the apartment just as I'm documenting. This is vibration of my apartment inside. They're also stalking in planes. Okay, now the helicopters amplified audible activities, engaging crossing a path by flying over by planes as well. Ontario Police and crossing path on the roads, multiple shadows, so their group stalking with Ontario PD. This is the same thing Alvarado Gardens is doing, and they're repeating over while I'm publishing onto YouTube the Pomona Police in the same exact pattern of conduct. Oh, excuse me. That's called crossing a path with multiple shadows. That's what the whole property is engaged. Entities repeatedly flying over. They're doing so under the fake sun during the day. Okay, so you just looked at the same iteration of the P.O.C. with Amazon Prime under the fake sun. That's the entity doing so while they're group stalking, living at an apartment complex where the fake sun is rising and setting. And that's what you're witnessing while it's present in the morning. 9:20 a.m. Ontario PD flying over my head while the fake sun is at the same property. 8 hours from now, flying over my head, flying over the property with Amazon Prime, which was the method of relevant positioning, light activity. That's called light activity while you're walking in the engineered light crossing path with Ontario PD, who is, again, these are demons showing the entire property is going to be prosecuted for state surveillance and federal. This is a property of population engaged in surveillance in conformity to the P.O.C. Federal stalking is underway. When you're looking at, excuse me, here's a shadow here and here's a shadow here. That's called light activity, shadows on both sides. That's impossible light activity, and that's a demon. All right, this is Avanath Communities group stalking. All right, doing so with Ontario PD, and Tracy Banks is inside of her apartment group stalking. This demon in apartment 55, 24-hour surveillance. That's my shadow upright on a wall in front of me. That has nothing to do with the building lights. That's P.O.C., what you saw at 6 o'clock in the morning. All right, building lights, do not create your shadow across from you. That's not light activity, that's naturally occurring. That's what the Ontario International Airport was engaging in, group stalking, pacing the sky space. Ontario PD flying over, engaging in repeated pacing because they're fearful of the evidence that I will continue to publish on the internet, on third-party YouTube, where the entities engaged in federal stalking. And the demon-possessed who are mentally ill, the Ontario Police Department is a terrorist organization, very heavily referenced in the evidence that I'm publishing onto the internet right now. This is why they're going to be disbanded. That's why those demons that are stalking in helicopters are going to federal prison. This is why Mike LORENZ is subject to what is removal and a federal prosecution. I want to be clear. Just like Dominic Choi and the demons of the Los Angeles Police Department, just like Robert Luna of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, not different by
the entity that's group stalking by the fire departments and the sheriff's department in San Bernardino County. So I just want to be clear, this is what I'm capturing with regard to the pattern of conduct that the entity is engaged in at Alvarado Gardens. I'm capturing ongoing amplification by 55, alternating with the amplification. Right now it was helicopter, alternating because the entity is communicating a higher threat while it stalks directly, doing so vicariously with number 55 directly above. This is a demon who was engaged in 24-hour surveillance. She or he is going to federal prison, and this entire population that's living at the crime scene where the fake sun is now rising and setting, to the exclusion of the rest of the state. No other location could the sun be present, including Alvarado Gardens, including over my vehicle in Baldwin Park, like I'm documenting on August 3rd, 2024. And the demons that are engaged in surveillance are, again, flying over my head at this apartment complex, incriminating Abernathy communities, incriminating the people of the state at Woodside Senior Apartments, incriminating the demon living at 307 West G Street in Ontario, where this entity did the same thing. Because I'm documenting the people of the state, I'm publishing the evidence against the entire state, including the demons living in relevant position. All right, it is currently, again, 9:36 p.m. You're looking at Malice while demons are unloading and loading and unloading. Whether I come out of the apartment or not, they're group stalking with Ontario PD while they're walking, having shadows on both sides of their person. That's not light that's caused by light activity that's caused by the light fixtures. In the same way, that light is not shooting into your apartment or your house, wherever it is, creating your upright shadow. That's engineered light. You're looking at the demonic. And the Ontario police is showing you how the demon-possessed terrorist organizations in California are masquerading as law enforcement agencies, engaged in state surveillance and federal stalking with the people of the state. All right, it is currently, again, what is 9:36 p.m. and this is the evidence that is subject to surveillance online while I am publishing it. So I just want to show you that. This is the evidence published on today, but it's referring to August 3rd, 2024 at 1:42 p.m. I'm documenting the fire department. I'm in Pomona, California. The fake sun is directly over the top of my car. You'll recall I'm remaining at Woodside Senior Apartments, and I'm capturing the fake sun remaining as a matter of evidence today, 9:20 in the morning until 6 p.m. the latest. The entity is keeping this light source over Woodside Senior Apartments and also engaging what is terrorism in real time while they're surveilling the evidence that I'm publishing onto the internet. This is the light source that's directly over the top of my car. And this is the evidence that the entity is engaging in what is terrorizing me and harassing as an entity, a demon-possessed one, a hostile one. These are terrorists that threaten you more so as you document, which as I publish this evidence about what's going on in an entirely different location over the top of my head, it's exposing and prosecuting the Ontario Police Department. And while the Ontario Police Department engages in that criminal conduct, it's exposing and prosecuting the people of the state. All right, this is speaking to the specific environment where federal stalking is underway. Federal stalking is also employed as a means of maintaining the elements of monitoring, which is again what I'm engaged in continuous documentation of, especially inside of the venue where I remain. And I want to show you the light source as it's directly over the top of my car. And you're going to be mindful that this is 1:42 in the afternoon where I'm capturing this video on August 3rd, 2024. This is activity creation that you're listening to in the background, but the entity is maintaining the light source over the top of my vehicle while I'm on the roads and highways, capturing the entity stalking by the state on motorcycle, which is crossing path. The same public corruption while the Ontario Police is maintaining presence over the apartment complex, where at 1:42 p.m. that's not the sun that's over Woodside Senior Apartments while I'm capturing nowhere near Ontario. I'm on the freeway, the 210 in particular. I'm coming from Los Angeles County, and the entity's maintaining that light source en route. All right, while I'm on the 210 East. That's speaking to what's incriminating the Ontario Police who are group stalking in the specific environment where the moon is over the property where the fake sun is remaining for 12 plus hours in the day. And this is the entity that engaged in criminal acts of obstruction of justice that is intended to retaliate, intimidate, threaten, and harass while they're still obsessively group stalking, which is exactly what's underway at this property. The entire state is being prosecuted while I'm documenting. It's currently 9:39 p.m. where you're looking at what the Ontario Police has been, and Ontario Police represents the state. Ongoing stalking in helicopters while the fake sun remained at the same exact property. That's exposing the demon possession of the mentally ill who are engaged in state surveillance, which is group stalking, in sync, in concert with the state. And it's exactly what the Ontario International Airport, which Alan D. WAPNER knows all about. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is stalking in the path, but the entity is amplifying helicopter activity, and that's impossible light activity here. That's not the cause of fixtures on the wall. The entity is engaged in ongoing. This is the desperate acts that the entity engages in because it's fearful of what I'm publishing online. This is the tactic that the entity engages in. So you're talking about outright desperation, and you're going to federal prison for that. You're going to be prosecuted for that. So they engage in more terrorism. That's the mental illness of the demon possessed. This public corruption is demonic at its core. The ongoing desperate act is to engage in more of that because their minds, this is distracting, stopping from publishing onto the venue of the internet. This is the Ontario Police, and this is what Mike Lorenz is fully engaged in, aware of. This is exactly what Dominic Choi and the LAPD are fully engaged in, acting together on both sides. This is demonic pacing. This is what the entity is doing under the fake sun all day long. And this is terrorism that the people of the state are directly posing together. Engage in what is threatening your life, your safety, engage in psychological torture, and they're exhibiting demon possession while doing so. This is amplified audible activity, crossing path, and light activity while you're being molested. Okay, this is the light activity you saw while the Ontario International Airport were pacing over a senior citizen complex. Remember, this is occurring over a senior citizen complex. This is P.O.C. This is openly engaging in criminal conduct, which the Ontario Police Department will be disbanded for. And the entity will produce the name of these demons stalking because they're going to federal prison. This is demonic light activity, which I documented from 2018 to 2022, going to LA, showing and juxtaposing what LAPD is doing, which is what Ontario Police has been doing, and they're doing it with the people of the state. Okay, this is again my shadow appearing on this wall over here. Here's my shadow appearing on this wall right here. Here's my shadow appearing right here. Tracy Banks is right in relevant position, monitoring her own daughter, just like you saw in the parking lot under the fake sun this morning. This is indeed P.O.C, and these are the desperate acts by the entity that is very fearful of the evidence that will be published fully on the internet. And this is speaking to the prosecution and the disbanding of an entire police department, acting in conformity to the P.O.C. This is San Bernardino County engaged in the P.O.C, exposing San Diego County. This is exactly what they were doing. This is exposing Las Vegas, Nevada, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, where I'm capturing the sunset in alignment with my vehicle as I'm on the streets and the highways. They're going to federal prison, and this is exposing what Nevada State Police were engaged in, group stalking in the specific environment. This is what the San Bernardino Police Department is documented engaging in while the fake sun is over the top of my head. And this is demonic pacing, what LAPD would do over Alvarado Gardens, over my apartment, over the apartment complex directly over me, while those demons were frustrated and very fearful. You're looking at these, this is a demonic pacing, and it's also light activity relevant positioning. These are demons that are letting you know how they behave. This is the public safety concern. This is the population, the people of the state that are just working for police departments. You're going to remove the mentally ill from law enforcement while they're using a helicopter to pace around. That's a outward demonstration of demon possession. They're pacing an engineered light. This is what the population is doing as a group. The entity is doing so while it's engaged in federal stalking, okay? This is the prosecution of the people of the state Avaneth communities, the prosecution of all the people living at Woodside Senior Apartments, all the people of the state that are in relevant position, which I captured with regard to the zone of relevant positioning. They're monitoring with the people that are representing police departments, okay? This is demonic pacing while you're looking at this one go back and forth. This is light activity remaining here, and this is pacing while it's flying around in a circle, okay? This is a pattern of conduct. It is 9:46 p.m. This is relevant to what is the federal stalking Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. And this is the same department fully documented with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, repeatedly kidnapping while this criminal system was underway. That's why they're also going to federal prison in concert with the people of the state. The corrupt courthouses and the judges engaged in kidnapping with this corrupt entity, they have no probable cause or reasonable suspicion while they're engaged in this pattern of conduct and engaging in what is the exercise of fictitious authority. That's monitoring while you're engaging in the P.O.C. with the state. It is again currently 9:47 p.m. and this is the light activity. I want you to be clear when you're looking at demonic pacing. All right, trying to summon me to get back into the house. That's activity creation as well. This is impossible light activity. And this is where, again, apartment number 55 is a means of systematic amplification. And doing so in concert with the people of the state is what the government is doing, okay? They do so. This is where the entity is remaining. 9:20 a.m., the fake sun. You're looking at it at 12 in the afternoon. It's still here over this strip of land. You're looking at it at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and at 5:55 in alignment with the same apartment. That's the demon-possessed terrorist organization that's group stalking, openly demonstrating demon possession and terrorism of an American citizen who is prosecuting it. This is P.O.C. Okay, this is a senior citizen complex where the ongoing demonic pacing is underway, and this is identical to what the LAPD were engaged in at 24 hours a day and night, also in the workplace, which is why Speaker Companies is going to federal prison, and the entire property. You're talking about what you're looking at, those over 55, subject to federal prison. They will not be treated differently under federal law. Okay, this is all the elements of monitoring and federal stalking underway. Terrorism that you're subject to while you're prosecuting that, and that was an outward demonstration of fury exhibited by demons who represent the terrorist organization, not a law enforcement agency. That's what that whole display was, while I'm subject to the P.O.C., including inside of the apartment of 51, okay? This is, again, light activity, okay? Demons pacing. This is also, none of that is going to cause your apartment to vibrate. Those are demons that are targeting, and it's also amplified in volume. That's speaking to targeting. And it's also targeting because I just so happen to be publishing evidence on the internet that's going to put these people in federal prison and all of the people that stayed in federal prison as well. It's currently 9:48 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, it is still September 20, 2024, capturing terrorism and the terrorism that is done with the criminal purpose to obstruct justice, exposing what is the mental illness, the public safety concern of demons that are currently a part of law enforcement agencies, masquerading as police departments and sheriff's departments. They're captured on video, 2 videos that I'm capturing in the specific environment. This is where the light source is remaining for over 9 hours. I'm capturing 9:20 until after 5 p.m., as late as 6 p.m. over the same exact strip of land that I'm staying at the inside of the particular apartment at the same property, which is mutually exclusive to San Diego, where I'm at inside of the hotel room at Fairfield by Marriott, which is mutually exclusive to the Motel 6 in Arcadia, where I'm documenting that light source, which is mutually exclusive to Monrovia, Courtyard by Marriott in Monrovia, California, at Myrtle and Huntington, which is mutually exclusive to Courtyard by Marriott in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I'm showing the specific environment, and it's mutually exclusive to what is remaining in Costa Mesa at the Best Western on Newport Boulevard, which is also mutually exclusive to Alvarado Gardens, obviously where I was living and working and did not go anywhere, and engaged in prolonged documentation, which was heavily referencing the demons, who are the corrupt agency, who you will see, and you'll also hear it because I'm going to convert it to audio to listen to. In fact, you will hear it before this, so I'm going to add it. I'm capturing audio right now, referencing the video that I just captured, and I'm also speaking to what is the relevant context and the ways in which you're going to prosecute the entity. And I want to be clear that I'm speaking to the ways in which not only you're going to prosecute, but it's also exposing its desperation. But the desperation of the demon possessed is a threat to public safety. So they are currently engaging in what are criminal conduct, very obvious criminal conduct, heavily incriminating activity, not only to themselves, but also to the people of the state. And the reason why, while you're looking at the elements of monitoring underway, because of federal stalking and the demons who are both fearful, they're also engaged in what is exhibiting hostility, okay? The mentally ill who are demon possessed, engaged in this no longer secret system, engage in more acts, heightened aggression, exhibit more hostility as they openly expose what they never wanted to be known, the fact that they are, number 1, demons, and number 2, that they're engaged in state surveillance. And that demonic pattern of conduct, the ongoing pacing and helicopter directly over the senior citizen complex, directly over the apartment, is something that nobody complains about because they're fully engaged in that pattern of conduct with that state. This is the pattern that you will see, the commonality. That's the same thing with regard to the demon in apartment 55. The reason why there's no complaints, the reason why there's no concern, there's nothing stated regarding what is openly and substantially disruptive, is because they're demons and they're group stalking all together as one entity. Nonetheless, beyond that common sense aspect, you're looking at the open demonstration of demon possession while the entity is flying in a circle over the apartment complex. Again, the same conduct where you're looking at the entity that is the Ontario International Airport pacing over the senior citizen complex, doing so at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, like I captured, creating a substantial disruption. The reason why the people are not creating any issues with regard to the openly public nuisance that's there, the substantial disruption, is because it's audible activity. They're all monitoring and group stalking together, and they're not asleep. You also know that they're group stalking because the fake sun is rising here and setting here. At nightfall, under light fixtures, they have shadows on both sides of their person. While I'm also showing the light activity, my shadow is upright on both sides of me, while I am assured to go back inside of the apartment, but yet the substantial disruption of a helicopter flying over your senior citizen apartment complex is not posing any sort of disruption based on the behavior of the people of the state. So I just want to be clear. This is what I captured on video, and this is the also circumstantial evidence regarding the ongoing conspiracy that exists between the state and the people who are fully engaged in the pattern of conduct, which is surrounding, the evidence of that is surrounding. But you're also looking at their behavior and the entity that's engaging in nothing to see here, folks, while the police department's flying in circles over your apartment complex, vibrating your apartments, engaging in doing so 24 hours a day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and there is no disruption, complaints regarding that. The entity is doing so while they're engaged in the pattern of conduct with the people, okay? And they are the same exact condition. Not only that, they're doing so while federal stalking is underway, and that's what's also notable regarding what's being published onto the video of the internet, which the entity that is demon possessed, that is indeed engaged in group
group stalking, and this is the headline news for you, that in the United States, this is not a free country with regard to what is having any privacy, any constitutionally protected rights. You're talking about the entity that's playing cops and robbers on television and under its light source, which you're not aware is the light source, not the sun, not the natural environment, but they're actually engaged in playing cops and robbers with the very same demons who are the people of the state. As though engaging in what is the outward form, posing as though there's a constitutional system and laws and policies that the government is governed by and is abiding by, and that's a fallacy. The entity that's engaged in the pattern of conduct, as I've exposed it, is exposing what is an absolute unconstitutional system, and it's speaking to the fallacy that you are conditioned by, as though you have privacy, as though you have constitutional rights, and this is not the case with regard to the state that is already engaged in a satanic surveillance system, and it's also targeting. I'm subject to targeting while this satanic surveillance system is underway. And as I documented, you get the open exposure of what the entity never wanted to be known openly. Okay, and that is the demonic pacing. The entity's flying over the apartment complex in a circle repeatedly on video, which I capture. And this is moments after I captured another video flying directly over my head, group stalking with the people of the state who are crossing path. They are fully engaged in crossing path in sync with the people of the state who are living in relevant position. So it's the same exact pattern of conduct, the same exact elements, while the entity repeats it moments later in the absence of somebody walking by on the sidewalk. The entity is again under the foolish, confused state, delusional, with regard to what is fully understood, the way that they're engaging in this demonic system and the elements of monitoring and how they are always maintained. By the way, in the video you will witness what is the maintenance of crossing path in close proximity while I'm capturing video, and while my video is obviously a disruption compared to the helicopter that's flying in circles and pacing above a senior citizen complex. In that way, which you will see on video, the elements of monitoring are exactly underway in the same exact manner through the two videos that you'll see of the Ontario Police. Again, this is the entity that is aware of what I'm publishing online, and I reference, for example, August 3rd, 2024, the videos that I'm capturing. It will include August 3rd, August 4th, and August 5th, showing what is under no circumstances ever going to be the son of a Woodside senior apartments. And this is already known because while I relocated to Los Angeles and the entity continued the same exact criminal system, which is surveillance, and it's demonic, relevant for what is prosecution for terrorism, that is domestic. It's occurring by the American government, targeting American citizens with the constituents of the state, and it happens to be satanic. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct in an environment that's readily identifiable, where the evidence of what the Ontario Police Department are and what they're doing and with whom they're doing it is already on the record. And then you have, again, the impossibility of any coincidence regarding the specific environment and the pattern of conduct exhibited, the behaviors by the entity, both directly and vicariously, while they are engaging in the same exact P.O.C, which is what I captured. So while I'm on August 3rd, 2024 on video on the freeway, you're looking at the light source that's directly over me, and they're going to recall what I captured today. The maintenance of the light source at 9:20 a.m. The Ontario Police Department is flying over my head in a helicopter, which is the openly engaging in what is terrorism, harassment as an entity, in concert with the people. They're doing the exact same thing without helicopters. They're maintaining amplified audible activity and relevant positioning in the engineered light, pursuant to what it is that I do as I do it. That's exactly what number 55. This is a demon who's going to federal prison, and which is what's unique, because Alvarado Gardens, the structure of these apartments, this is the only demon that's above my head immediately with regard to maintaining demonic pacing. It is alternated with the sound of amplified train, impossible to hear. It's demonic, amplified plane and helicopter with regard to a clear deviation from taking off from the Ontario International Airport, and doing so over a senior citizen apartment complex, doing so at what is all hours of the day and night in the environment where the sun is rising and where the moon is over at nightfall, doing so in manners that are creating vibrations of the building, which is demonic, and it's also sensational activity. It's impossible to occur, and it is also an admission that you are necessarily flying at a low elevation over a senior citizen apartment complex, either way that you want to reason with that. But I want to be clear, there's no reasoning with the demonic behaviors. This is showing and breaking down and also logically analyzing for prosecution. It is the demonic conduct that is occurring in an environment that is maliciously underway. You are looking at the demonic when you're looking at the light activity. My shadows are upright on the walls around me, on both sides of my person. And also you saw the people of the state that are crossing path, and they have shadows on both sides of their person on the ground. That's speaking to impossible light activity while you're also looking at the demonic. This is a demon flying an Ontario Police Department helicopter, and they're doing so in circles and doing so after 9 p.m. And they're also doing so while they know exactly what it is that I'm publishing online, which it is both fearful of, but demons, the same personality of Satan, who knows that he's running out of time, knows that he's defeated, and is seeking to engage in as much treachery as he can, even though he knows that his sentence is death. Okay, this is what's animating the people of the state and the government that's group stalking. Psychopathic conduct to its own demise. And what its provenance is that the state's criminal pattern of conduct is directly incriminating the people of the state. So you're talking about 144 units that are fully engaged in the P.O.C. And that's just Woodside Senior Apartments. And this is years of that pattern of conduct, both while I was sleeping in the vehicle at Fern Avenue and G Street, where the fake sun was rising. And then you're going to recall the evidence of the fake sun remaining over this apartment complex, as I've documented in 2024 from 9:20 a.m. until after 6 p.m. You're going to recall the sunrises over this same block at 6 and 7 in the morning. Based on where I am, this is where the entity is keeping the light source. This is where the entity is also stalking in helicopters. This is where the people of the state are pacing all around with impossible light activity, including while they walk around in it with shadows all over the place, okay? And no one is speaking of the substantial disruption that the demons who are group stalking with them create in helicopters. That's just circumstantial evidence regarding what is a state system that is necessitating the people of the state's engagement. That's why, by the way, a fake sun is over the people of the state who are group stalking a person together, okay? Doing so through the provision of the state, if you will, the amplification that is implicating that you're using the train as a means of activity creation. That's pointing to the people of the state who are in relevant position. The entity is using commercial airline planes flying, by the way. Circumstantial evidence, you're deviating from the airport. There is no taking off in this direction to be at this low elevation, as though that's the form for what is under all circumstances amplification and crossing a path. You are clearly deviating from taking off from the airport at that elevation and flying over the senior citizen apartment complex. This is just common sense. This is just with regard to the circumstantial evidence, with regard to targeting, using commercial airline planes. It is prosecuting, it is exposing corrupt government actors such as Alan D. WAPNER, such as Mike Lorenz. These are demons who are in strategic positions where this demonic pattern of conduct. So what does that show you? Not only is this revealing public corruption, this is stalking by a government. And that's shown through the evidence. But you know all of their business in addition to that, because this is a demonic pattern of conduct. As I go to cities and counties that I haven't been to before, such as San Diego, and you have strangers that speaking to demons who know who you are. While the demons are stalking in commercial airline planes, this is speaking to the demons who are in leadership positions of that airport that's engaged in the demonic pattern of conduct. You know all of their business, their secrets they don't want you to know. You know that same information regarding the police departments who are engaging in a pattern of conduct that's demonic, having no relation, no relationship whatsoever, or circumstances having any familiarity with me and San Diego, but yet you're looking at the same hallmark in the specific environment. It's letting you know not only is a pattern of conduct underway, but these are demons in leadership positions while that pattern of conduct is underway. That's speaking to the mayor as well, who is in relation with these the county sheriff, with the chief of police, who are demons acting in sync. This is criminal facilitation of the P.O.C. This is group stalking by government actors. This is public exposure exposed at the heights, okay, those that are in positions of leadership. And this is all that is known, as I'm showing you, the P.O.C. that's underway in the state of California. Because of the specificity of the P.O.C. and because of the peculiarity, the uniqueness of this crime, it's demonic. So those that are engaging in it are admitting to that condition, and also those that are in leadership, while a pattern of conduct is underway that is demonic, that's a demon in position. And that's also legally relevant while the government is showing mental illness, the public safety concern, while those of that condition are engaging in that pattern of conduct. And so this is what's relevant with regard to what is federal stalking while I'm publishing videos onto YouTube. And the entity is showing their mental illness going berserk in the sky space, pacing back and forth. This is a terrorizing threat communicated by both the people of the state and the state itself, acting directly and vicariously. And remember, the entity that's stalking in planes and helicopters is maintaining the elements of monitoring in sync with the demon-possessed entity, the population, including the demon living in relevant position at 307 West G Street in Ontario, California. They will be prosecuted for this terrorism that I just captured on video, and I will be putting on podcast. This is the same for the entire population. This is exactly what the Los Angeles Police Department and the people of the state at Alvarado Gardens, and all in relevant position. Silverview Townhomes engaged in the same P.O.C. But just regarding regarding an entirely different region, the same exact specific environment, which is impossible to naturally occur. The sun's not over my head at Woodside Senior in Ontario, which is San Bernardino County, while it's over the top of my head at the same time or at any point in the day in Los Angeles at the Alvarado Gardens, where the sun was rising in alignment to me through my living room window and setting in alignment to me through my bedroom window, replete with impossible light activity on all walls, including the ceilings, on the ground, and inside of my apartment. That's exhibiting the demon-possessed population and the state. That was also group stalking in helicopters day and night, which the people of the state are not complaining about because they're fully engaged in that P.O.C. So this is video evidence that is serving for the prosecution of the government, and this is exposing what is, again, mental illness, not only above while you're engaged in group stalking, but this is understanding the public safety concern where demons are bearing weapons and are a part of law enforcement agencies. This is what's shared by the Pasadena Police, the Monrovia Police, the San Diego Police, the Pomona Police, the Montclair Police, Fontana Police, San Bernardino Police, the entity that's group stalking with the Las Vegas Police Department, the entity that's group stalking by the Costa Mesa Police Department, all of the entity where I'm documenting, Bakersfield Sheriff's, the Kern County Sheriff's Department. This is the same P.O.C. Do not forget the light source that's setting in alignment to me in Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario. And the entity is keeping that fake sun in alignment with my vehicle while the entity is stalking in the path in helicopters while I am in Bakersfield, California, Kern County at 5:23 p.m., 5:27 p.m. The two are not happening at the same time. You also have what is identifying the pattern of conduct by mentally ill, demon-possessed group stalkers who are secretly engaging in a system of surveillance, and they are showing the public safety concern that they create, that they pose to you, wherever you are, while that system is being exposed. And their answer for being exposed, for being prosecuted, for answering for their criminal conduct is to engage in showing the world that they serve Satan, that they're demon possessed, is the demonic pacing, light activity, and relevant positioning. And they also do so because of their hostility, as opposed to being repentant for being recognizing the criminal conduct, the unconstitutional, the unlawful, the inhumane activity that they practice. The entity engages in more hostility, more aggression, more criminal conduct, more harassment as an entity, more terrorism. This is informing federal legislation. This is informing federal prosecution. This is informing civil damages by all of the iterations of the people of the state. Every company, every property, you will be held responsible. They're fully engaged in communicating that threat as one. It's not just the demons representing that corrupt terrorist organization. It's the people of the state that are engaged in the same elements of monitoring. They're in relevant position, creating light activity and audible activity while the demons are exposing the entire population, flying in circles above my head in helicopter. And this is because the demons are psychopaths who engage in more criminal activity, more terrorism, while they are facing their inevitable prosecution and exposure on the world scene. That's what the Ontario Police Department just did on video, and that's what you listen to. And I'm going to share this on podcast, and I will be continuously publishing my video documentation onto YouTube because this is what the entity reasons they would rather. This is the reasoning of by the way, of a sex offender, of a Unabomber, of demons who fly planes into skyscrapers and then blame it on foreign countries. This is the mindset of those that engage in such criminal activity. I want to be clear. They will engage in more lawlessness because of their hostility. This is Satan. This is the personality of Satan that is animating people who work for the Ontario Police Department. Ontario Police just represents the state. Because you saw in every county that I went to, Kern County, LA County, San Diego County, Orange County, I'm in San Bernardino County, I've documented this in Riverside County, I went to what is Las Vegas, Nevada. The entity is maintaining this specific environment in ways that are irreconcilable. Insurmountable evidence is what remains on the record, and the hallmark is that they are stalking. That's the identification of what is group stalking. You are group stalking in the location where you live, where you pay rent, where you pay your mortgage. Understand what group stalking is. It's conduct on behalf of the government. You don't have any privacy. You don't have any protections with regard to being prosecuted for state surveillance, where the entity provides that level of evidence against you. And that's, again, the idiots that are stalking under a fake sun are providing evidence against each other. This is the implosion of federal group stalking and monitoring, which is demonic. It is in service to Satan. It is the expiration date of Satan's secret surveillance system. And it is showing that which is unsophisticated. It's not elite. It's not intelligent. It's not even intricate with regard to understanding the baseline. It is intricate as I'm showing you what Satan is doing, and I do go through that. That's why there's such a wealth of evidence, not only because I'm subject to 24/7 surveillance, but because of I understand the ability for someone to, the information must be made in a manner that is palatable, and that's what the P.O.C. endeavors to do. Make it so that you can recognize a pattern, and you're not marrying yourself to any one image. You're looking at the elements of monitoring, and all you're doing is looking at an ongoing puzzle. The elements are always present. You are looking at how is the entity engaging in the elements, because they're always there. Always there. That's what you're recognizing with regard to the P.O.C. And then you're understanding the mental illness. You're understanding the malice. You're understanding the impunity. You're understanding what is a threat to to the American public, that they are currently, again, people are losing their lives while this criminal system is underway. The Ontario Police Department is engaged in murder. Okay, not over aggressive force while they're engaged in lawful exercise of authority. They're murdering people while that's a homicide, loss of life. And that blood is on your hands, and it's an unlawful taking of life. It is reasonably foreseeable to occur when you're exercising authority that you don't have under the law as a group stalker. Mentally ill psychopaths, it's reasonably foreseeable that loss of life will result while you're engaging in the exercise of fictitious authority. They're mentally unwell while you're seeing them pace around above me, while they're hostile because of evidence that's being published against them. This is a terrorist organization that's engaging in what is kidnapping, having no lawful authority to engage in any traffic stop, not even of the people of the state with whom their group stalking me in the specific environment. The entity is engaging in what is murdering American citizens and kidnapping them and masquerading as a law enforcement agency having any authority while they engage in that desperate act that I just captured on video. This is true of every terrorist organization that has no lawful authority. This is what the entire state of California is engaging in. I do not have to go to Modesto, California. I don't have to physically go to San Luis Obispo. I don't have to go to San Francisco, which, by the way, I've been to Oakland, California, and the entity was keeping the fakes on. This is where Eric Corey Spencer's engaged in the P.O.C. Okay, and doing so federal stalking with the third party that lives in this apartment. But nonetheless, you don't have to physically go there. The pattern of conduct is establishing what the entire state is doing. And you also know that based on the entity, and the entity is demonic. The entity is group stalking through the maintenance of a specific environment, which is demonic. This is how you know what's surrounding them in Northern California. This is how you know what's surrounding them in Central California. This is how you know what's surrounding them when I'm in San Bernardino County at Woodside Senior Apartments. The fake sun is rising and setting. There's no sun over the Alvarado Gardens apartments. Like I stated then, it remains now. The entire property of Alvarado Gardens is going to federal prison. They were engaged in this system of surveillance, a violent sex offense, terrorism and harassment as an entity, federal stalking, surveillance with the government, maliciously so, with knowledge of the fact that it's being documented, showing more hostility, more terrorism, more sexual violence, more harassment, while you are documenting it because they're demon-possessed psychopaths, which is the threat that a population poses while it is demon-possessed, keeping you under surveillance. All right, it is currently 10:11 p.m. and this is the P.O.C. This is what you see Ontario Police is exactly what Alan Wapner, the president of the Ontario International Airport, is fully aware of and is facilitating while commercial airline planes hover over this apartment complex where the fake sun is rising and setting and where the moon is over. This is exactly what the people of the state, acting via the demon apartment number 55, is engaged in. It's a means of systematic, ceaseless harassment and terrorism, which Avaneth communities will compensate for. It's not a legitimate company. They're maliciously using a business, profiting off of state surveillance while the fake sun rises and sets over their property, and their employees, the vendors that they're contracted with, and the demons who are living paying them rent are group stalking with the state, who just flew circles over my head in the specific environment. This is P.O.C. All right, it is currently 10:18 p.m. This is documenting what is a psychopath. This is a mentally ill person. This is a demon possession, though. So this is demon possession at work. And the demon that is group stalking, the people of the state, group stalking inside of apartment number 55. This is the state that's occupying a place in relevant position at a facilitating venue. And doing so in apartment 55 where the demons are this demon is pacing back and forth. And it's an ongoing chorus, incessant chorus, which is exactly what I'm noting as well. This is relevant to the civil and criminal prosecution of the people, including this demon number 55. But I want to be clear, it's alternating amplified audible activity. And the entity is returning with amplified helicopter. They're not going anywhere. You can see in the video, they fly up in the distance and they're engaging in donut
They're just flying in circles, and they're repeatedly flying in circles, and that's what I want to document. It's 10:19 p.m. And the amplified audible activity while the people that stayed inside of this apartment, that includes Tracy Banks, who you saw on video, group stalking her own flesh and blood. And with her audible activity says things like, I love you. It's nothing other than audible activity. And that is, by the way, the threat to your life that the demon-possessed pose while the government is monitoring with the people closest to you, posing the most potent threat to your life and safety and liberty, which is also the documented criminal conduct of the people of the state that are inside of this apartment with me in relevant position, while the OPD providing evidence against her and the rest of the entity directly above me in 55, that's relevant positioning, and also the entire property and the people of the state that are living. The demon at 307 West G Street is in relevant position being documented at the same time, okay? 7-Eleven is profiting while engaged in group stalking with the state. In relevant position, light activity. The demons are on surveillance cameras at 7-Eleven, engaged in federal stalking, maintaining activity creation, and they're doing it while they're simultaneously working at 7-Eleven and making purchases. All they're doing is group stalking. That's why the entity keeps a fake sun over me at this apartment complex, and the entity is doing so while they're keeping one person under surveillance and all the means of presence, including shopping at a nearby venue. That's why 7-Eleven will be prosecuted as well. Just want to be clear, the entity is vacillating between amplified audible activity of the demon in 55 and amplified audible activity of a helicopter, which is continuing at this time. It's 10:21 p.m. This is exposing again what is the surefire and absolute and admitted defeat of Satan, who was so desperate and fearful. They're engaging in more criminal activity that they will be held liable, civilly and criminally liable for, and they are going to federal prison. I mean, people who are today wearing badges and will have nothing to do with law enforcement, and they're going to sit in cells. And the entity is doing so because they're that desperate and scared of what I'm publishing on the internet. That's supposedly the big bad wolf. That's a group stalker that you're supposed to be terrified of. Now, I want to be clear. I represent the exception. The entity is engaged in murdering people. That's their sacrifices to Satan. This is what the entity is doing, group stalking you. The entity that sought to sacrifice me is now so terrified, they're engaging in more terrorism, which they would prefer rather than me publishing evidence on the internet. It is pathetic. That's what you're witnessing. And they're going to federal prison for it. They've decided they would rather go to federal prison and continuously engage in this rather than, and it's not going to be that. It's not going to be either or. It's going to be both. Okay. So I just want to make sure that I'm capturing that's 10:22 p.m. This is speaking to the defeat of Satan, and I've documented this defeat, this concession so many times. But the Ontario Police Department, they are documenting, and this is relevant because this is the grounds upon which terrorist organizations masquerading as law enforcement agencies will be disbanded. And the Ontario Police Department has well surpassed that threshold. And the people of the state are going to federal prison along with them. All right, it's currently 10:22 p.m. This is P.O.C.